Hey, today we're going to do a scratch-built, kit-bashed, utilitarian spaceship. Let's go. Hey, how's it going? Anthony Frog here, Crate Sci-Fi. Well, today we're back to basics and always an evolution of what I've been doing for all these years. So this week I do a scratch-built ship body, kit bash some parts. What I wanted to do this week, because it's the holiday week, it's Thanksgiving when I'm filming this, is just use what I have in the shop. So I dump out my little kit bash collection of parts, make this out of styrene plastic, sort of the body around whatever parts I find. And I wanted to do something utilitarian, right? Like, and I still don't know, does it go this way? This way? You tell me in the comments. So it's sort of like a tugboat, carrier, cruiser, miner, thingamajabba. I don't know, but that's part of the fun, like we find out. And then I've done a lot of tutorials on this channel about like flying these things practically. You guys really enjoy those, but I haven't done those for a couple years. So this one, I think I'm gonna do like an AI composite using this and demonstrate that AI can also be a tool. Because you'd say like, oh, I created a spaceship from AI and digital, like what is that about? But clearly I built this, you see it. So let's see at the end of the video what we can do to make this fly or just make it a still image with I'm not sure yet. But AI, a tool or the killer of human ingenuity? To be decided. But speaking of human ingenuity, check out this week on the subscriber spotlight. And Leo is killing it. Great book, Leo. Now look at that, right? That's just like sort of in your living room. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And, you know, it looks crazy, but look at his result. That is gorgeous. Let me link you to that video. Well done. Let's dump out my box of kit bashing parts, get some scrap pieces of plastic, and let's put this together. All right, let's get into the video. So yeah, like I said, I just wanted to deal with what I had this time, and I wanted to stay away from, you know, airplane bodies and wings, and like I said, something utilitarian, different. And typically when I kit bash, I'm using a boat, a tank, or a plane, and then the ship ends up looking like those. This one probably does end up looking like a tank, but I went into it without doing that. But right away, my eye was attracted to that sort of heat sink piece, and I thought, all right, this is going to be the engine back, and I'm just building it around that. And now that I share this with you, I realized in my last scratch build, the triangular one, I can link to that. It was same thing. I had this like engine piece, and then I built it from the back to the front, if that makes sense. So just interesting. I'm realizing now I'm doing that again when I'm not thinking about it. So maybe there's something to that. Kind of like building a pyramid from the base. So now with styrene, typically it's pretty straightforward. You just put one score mark on there, snap it like you see here, and it's good. The only reason I was struggling earlier, because I'm using whatever I have in the shop, this styrene's a little thicker than what I would typically use. But these styrene sheets, you know, you can get them on Amazon. I get them from my local hobby store. And here's my model kit box. I keep a separate box for my model kit. And this is model kit glue. It's not really glue. It's like a chemical that sort of melts the plastic. And I start off that way and I subsequently use it. But I am going to, at a certain point, abandon it for super glue because, like I said, I'm doing this on a holiday week, and I just sort of, sometimes I'll take my time and take a week and do one step a day, or sometimes you try to do it in a day. This one was more of like a one-day type build, and I think it took me 2 days, but if I wanted to, I could have done it in one. So here, I'm just sort of figuring out the main silhouette, the big shape. And then this grill, I mean, right away when you look at the cutouts, that's probably from something Star Wars, which is fine because it's just going to get lost in everything else. And here, yeah, I jumped over to the super glue. And again, just because I'm doing this rapidly. If you were just sort of having this be, you know, a meditative project where you're just sort of doing it to pass the time, you could do it in a couple days and use the regular bonding glue. And there I just flew it by. I constantly do that, like I've said before in previous ship build videos or spacecraft builds, is, you know, that's actually serving a purpose. You're seeing how it's going to look on camera. And there I'm using the accelerator because I'm trying to get this done. So now the ship needs some sides. Again, broken record because I'm using scraps and what I have on hand. I'm just making a template for this simple shape, just simply because I have just enough styrene and I don't want to cut it wrong and then not have any. And this just occurred to me. I'm like, oh, it's all white in there. Once I glue this all up, it'll be sealed. So I just hit a quick coat of black in there just so that, because you can see through the grids and the grates. So I just didn't want that to be white in there. No big deal. Here I'm just sort of evening everything out. And now I'm committing to cutting those side panels, which I realize now that I did have enough styrene. Oh, because I switched over to a lighter gauge. And, you know, I don't have anything that's a go-to, like this is the perfect gauge. I'm sure people who make these kits or these scratch builds all the time can have a preference, but for me, again, you know, when I say this casually, like, whatever it is or whatever, it's never for lack of caring or being lazy. It's just, I found that that's the way that I can make this stuff happen. Otherwise, you're just all bound up and you don't even try. So here I'm adding, these aren't headlights, but, you know, you try to take cues from things in the real world. So it's going to have a headlight vibe, although they're not literally headlights, but our brains, I found, our brains like when things are where we expect them to be, or when something is somewhere, something in a position that we recognize, right? And I think all those are invaluable when you're storytelling, right? I want this to be a ship. I don't want people to be thinking about, I don't know if that ship would really fly that way, or that doesn't, like, you don't want people to be having those thoughts. You just want them to register, oh, this is some sort of tow vehicle or a mining vehicle or, you know, whatever situation we put it in. Now here I'm going to just sand it down as I prep to put on the Greeblies. I'm using 150. I feel like noting this. I'm typically going to use 220 for that, but because holidays, using what's on hand, and I got to get better at that, because these days everything is just so expensive, from groceries to just things that I never would think about. I was never that kind of person that would try to save 50 cents. But lately, I need to adjust a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think before I would have been like, oh, I have to go to the store and get some 220. Now I'm like, 150 will work. And then here I have this big side, this big empty blank side. So I have these model kit. I think they're like torpedoes from like some kind of airplane. And be honest with you, this worked fine. But in hindsight, I probably should have put about two or three more things on there. But, you know, like I said, I could be all held up like, oh, I should have done that. But instead, I just did it. Now, these are interesting. These are like these pre-made rivet panels that I definitely bought at the hobby shop so many years ago that I forgot why I bought them. So there is always a certain amount of pleasure when you use stuff like this, where you're like, see, I didn't throw this out for a reason. And so here, yeah, I'm just thinking, like, I'm not sure which side of this is going to be the top side for the ship. I mentioned that a few times in this video. And the reason being that I kind of, when I'm doing these sort of builds, I enjoy the process, right? So it's like, well, let's see what it wants to be. But as I'm putting these on, I don't know what, it kind of evokes like aircraft carrier to me, even though Obviously, an airplane wouldn't land on a heavily riveted surface like that, but you know what I mean? Once something starts to form in your head, it kind of goes for it. And then here, like typically from tanks, there's all these gas cans. And, you know, my hope is that I know they're gas cans, you know they're gas cans, and we're looking at them and I'm saying gas can, and it's like, oh, wow, that's a gas can. But the idea is when this just flies by, zoom, you're not going to register that. It's just a Greebly, right? Doing what it's supposed to do. And then I'm like, well, let's put 4 of them, and I think I abandoned that at some point. And it's funny, the things, it's always unusual, the things that fight you. Like, I just glued all of those Greeblies on there with no problem, but for some reason those gas cans were like, no. So finally I gave in and reduced it to 2. And it was probably helped me out, because then I just put a couple of train wheels on there. We're good. Now there's the super primer, the Tamiya primer. Then I'm going to hit it with the chrome. Those of you who follow me know that I had a aha moment a couple months ago with the chrome where, that's chrome paint. But later when I weather it with the water-based oil paint, it's a pretty cool look. All right, so now I'm inspecting, looking good, feeling good. Got my little wire. So now I just want to do the back grill, that, you know, engine, heatsink, whatever it is. And then the front grill, and I just want to do those black. I could have just done this with a brush, but I didn't. And the reason why is, I don't know. I just didn't. So, well, there is a reason. I do have that steel gunmetal gray that I like, that is a spray paint. So, yeah, there it is. Black stainless steel. And then the hairdryer comes out a lot in this build because, like I said, I'm trying to do like a day build where if I'm just meditating on these, you know, walk away, go do some work, watch some TV, have some dinner, come back to it. But here I was just chunking along. So now, because I keep saying I want this to be utilitarian, I'm masking these off because I want to use like industrial colors. I'm going to use a yellow because, spoiler alert, that's what I have on hand. But in this case, I probably would have went for a yellow anyway. Yellow's a cool, like, beat up factory, heavy duty machinery. Yellow's always a good indicator of that. You know, I talk about that a lot. The silhouettes, the cues, right? So our brain sees yellow. We don't think about it, but we do associate that with like, oh, this is some kind of construction rig, or, you know, some kind of thing with guys working on it to fix something else. And then here, to keep going with this yellow theme, you know, just spraying a little bit in the cap so I can just brush some of it on these more delicate small pieces. And again, I know I'm going to be heavily weathering this, so I'm not too crazy about getting it in the lines. And even notice in these videos, like my hands I definitely have like shaky hands, and that's not old age. I've had shaky hands since I was a teenager. So I do the best I can. And I think that's probably, if I'm being honest, why I have gotten so good, or, you know, in my mind, I've gotten much better at weathering, because that's how I compensate for my inability to do very fine line work, right? So I could have said, oh, I can't do fine line work, and just quit and said, well, forget it. Instead, I, you know, adapted my technique, how I do things, and yeah, I don't know, being kind of philosophical today. So now I'm just going to run some green over the bottom of this just to tie it all together. And even if you're using similar colors, like typically if you're doing at least 3 different colors, even if they're just little subtle hints of color, it definitely brings things to life. And on that point, I'm just going to take a couple of my metallics, you know, whatever I have on hand. I typically have like a purple, blue, maybe some gold. I'm just going to do a little dry brush on here, little whoopsies, right? This is the Bob Ross stuff where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, look at that. Nice little gold reflection. Oh, here's, yeah. And you know, you need to think of things in layers, right? Because when you just look at the chrome layer, then now these color layers, they don't look good. You know what I mean? Because we're not there yet. It's right. It's a process. We're kind of prepping the undercoating. You kind of do it backwards to achieve the result, as if it had happened for real. So now, just get the silver out. I did want to, that back engine piece, heat sink, whatever you want to call it, I did paint it solid black, and I just want to do a quick dry brush on there just to pop those fins. Right, and then there's that little dash of yellow in there. Just a little, oopsie, in a good way, a little green in the corner there. So now, right, that's like, yuck, but it's before it emerges as the swan. So we always put the clear coat between these steps. Think of it like layers if you're familiar with Photoshop, right? You have the one layer, and then we're doing another layer on top of that now so we can undo this layer. So that's kind of what doing the clear spray between your layers allows you that. So here it's just, this is a water-based oil paint. So it's different than acrylic. I found that it's excellent for weathering. It looks very greasy, which is perfect for this kind of stuff. And here I'm just patting off the paint. I don't want to wipe it off completely, which is typically what you do, but I like this modeling effect that I get from doing it this way. So it's what I like. It's what I evolved into as my process. You could just do like an acrylic wash. You could do no wash, but then you should be a little more specific than me and putting things together and not gluing things in such a haphazard way. But this serves me. I like it. Hair dryer's out. And the hair dryer is good too for locking in that, because it's such a wet wash. The hair dryer helps to lock it in. And here, it's starting to look good. Let's fly it by. Zoom, it's going to tilt that way, maybe. Behind is always a good one. Hair dry it. Final answer, contemplate. See how that grill's not black anymore, but it was black. So here's the final clear coat, and I'm going to add some nicotine spray because we know I like that. But you could get the same thing with like a burnt sienna wash. This I just use because I live in California and there's all these expendable movie supply stores around, so I can get it pretty easily. Not cheap, but it's like anything. I use it a lot and I love it, so it's like a thing. And it's very thin, very water-based. If you saw it in person, it's almost like tea. So you got to seal it in once you're happy with it. And then there it is. And here's the beauty shots. Again, with that's the thing with the Greeblies. With so much going on, you're not clocking one specific thing. You know, you can probably see my fingerprints in there. But yeah, that came out really good. But yeah, I'm happy with that. A good one-day build. No. I love that. So like I said, I'm going to take some pictures of this and then we'll throw it in AI and we'll see what we come up with. So let's check that out. All right, so this is going to be quick. So, you know, this is Midjourney, tools, remove the background, boom, boom, boom. Photoshop, boom, background automatically removed. So then I go into GPT. I'm like, I want it to kind of look like Alien. That's my ship. But it's never exact, so I bring it into Photoshop. Again, I'm just going quickly here, just giving like a rough overview. So I'm adding the stars. The AI didn't add the stars. I'm going to color them, but the color tools are powerful now. So, you know, little stars. Here's the ship. And again, this is all just off the top of my head. I didn't really put a lot of time into this. I just wanted to demonstrate. And I think the fact that I didn't put a lot of time into this is kind of another kind of demonstration of the potential. So there it is. I'm kind of like, okay, let me just do some fine tuning. Again, you see, I'm doing that. But then I go back into ChatGPT and I'm like, give me a dialed in prompt to get this thing flying. And again, this is just a first draft. I mean, look, it's just a tool. I could just do it the old way. And you've seen me do that before, so maybe I'll do that. I'm just sharing the knowledge, the options with you people. So, yeah, that was fun. I'll be making more projects. I'm getting ready next year to do a feature film called Moon Terminal. So I think there's going to be a lot of costumes and sets and props around that. So stay tuned for that. Check out the eBay. Sell a lot of stuff on eBay that I've made on the channel that helps to support either my films or to buy stuff for the shop. Check out my book, Patreon. Thank you to Patreon subscribers. But remember, I'm out of focus and just here to help you make sci-fi.
Hey, I'm just the avatar, but you might want to check out this video, maybe that video. For sure, subscribe if you haven't, and check out the merch. Buy some merch, that really helps. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the avatar.